NFL is the most watched sports league in America. But behind every highlight, every flag, and every Super Bowl story, there's a theory. Some are memes, some are whispered by insiders, and some might actually be true. From scripted seasons to star treatment, suspicious draft drops to primetime bias, fans have noticed the patterns. Calls that never come, players who always seem protected, games that feel just a little too perfect. Coincidence? Or something deeper? In 30 minutes, we're breaking down the wildest, most persistent theories about how the NFL really works and why it might not all be by chance. The league loves big markets. It's the oldest theory in the book, and it's not hard to see why. The NFL makes money off eyeballs, and more people live in places like Dallas, New York, and Los Angeles than, say, Cincinnati. So when the Cowboys get 5 primetime games every year, even when they haven't seen an NFC championship since the 90s, fans of smaller market teams can't help but wonder, is the league pushing the teams that make them the most cash? Ratings seem to support the idea. Cowboys games consistently pull massive viewership. The Giants can be 3-10 and still headline Monday Night Football. Meanwhile, teams like the Jaguars or Titans can win their division and still get buried in the early Sunday window. We went 13-3 and still didn't get flexed. One small market fan complained on Reddit. And that frustration isn't just about TV time, it's about legitimacy. Penalty stats also get pulled into this. Some claim big market teams benefit from fewer calls in high leverage moments. Is that bias, or is it just better line play? Depends on who you ask, but when a questionable flag helps a legacy brand escape with a win, it adds fuel to the fire. The league insists it doesn't pick favorites, but from media coverage to postseason marketing, it's clear not all teams are treated equally, and that sets the stage for the deeper stuff, because once you suspect bias, you start seeing it everywhere. Next up, when betting lines and penalty flags start to feel a little too aligned. The Vegas whisper theory. The whisper started years ago, but they've gotten louder with every point spread and blown call. The theory goes like this. NFL officiating isn't rigged to decide who wins, but it might, just maybe, lean toward keeping games close or hitting certain totals. Why? Because that's where the betting money is. Look back at the infamous 2002 Tuck Rule game. Not only did that call shift the AFC playoff picture, but it also pushed the total just over the betting line in some markets. Coincidence? Probably. But when that kind of thing happens enough times, people notice. Sharp bettors, the ones who study betting trends like game tape, have pointed to calls that seem designed to sway the spread without affecting the winner. Late flags, questionable roughing calls, extended drives, and garbage time. Just enough to make Vegas right. Players have hinted at it too. Refs know the spread, one former DB said in a podcast interview. They say they don't, but come on. Now that sports betting is legal and integrated into broadcasts, the theory has only gotten stronger. Fans track ref crews, betting line movement, and odd penalties with the precision of a film room analyst. They don't need proof. The suspicion is the point. From the whispers of Vegas to the explosion of scandal, we now shift to the theory that took over headlines and defined a dynasty. Deflategate, the science and the spin. The 2015 AFC Championship game should have been a blowout and nothing more. Instead, it became one of the most infamous scandals in NFL history. The Colts accused the Patriots of using underinflated footballs. The league investigated. What followed was a messy saga of questionable science, vague reports, and a 4-game suspension for Tom Brady. The Wells Report, the NFL's investigation, was heavily criticized by independent analysts. The science around ball pressure and weather didn't hold up. Text messages between equipment staff became evidence, even though no one could prove intentional wrongdoing. Brady destroyed his phone, which didn't help. The punishment felt less about the infraction and more about optics. The Patriots had already been caught in Spygate. Some believe this was the league's way of humbling them, showing that no one, not even Brady, was above the shield. What really made the theory stick was how inconsistently the NFL handled similar accusations with other teams. When the Vikings were caught heating balls on the sideline, a warning. When Aaron Rodgers openly admitted to overinflating balls, no fine. The idea was simple. The NFL picked a target and made an example. Whether you believe Brady cheated or not, the outcome wasn't about fairness, it was about image. From science to symbolism, let's look at the moment football and American pride collided. And a new theory took shape, the 9/11 Patriot Playoff Theory. In 2001, America was reeling. The attacks on September 11th reshaped the country's psyche, and sports, especially football, became a unifying escape. That same year, a team named the Patriots made a Cinderella run to the Super Bowl, helped by one of the most controversial plays in NFL history, the Tuck Rule. That's where the theory starts. The idea is that the NFL, whether consciously or not, leaned into the symbolism. A team literally named after American revolutionaries rising to dominance right after the country's darkest moment. It was too perfect. Super Bowl ads were patriotic. Military tributes were front and center. The Patriots beat the Rams, a juggernaut, and started what would become the most dominant run in league history. Was it rigged? Probably not. But was the moment convenient for a league that thrives on storylines? Absolutely. The Patriots became more than a football team. They were a post-9/11 American myth. The theory's strength isn't in evidence, but in emotion, in timing, in the way sports and sentiment sometimes blur into something too scripted to feel real. Speaking of scripts, that leads perfectly into the most viral theory of all. Thanksgiving games and the Cowboys clause. Every year, like clockwork, the Cowboys and Lions host Thanksgiving games. The tradition goes back decades, but the impact today feels different. While Detroit gets some leeway as a legacy tradition, the Cowboys' spot on the holiday stage feels more calculated. The theory? The league uses Thanksgiving to guarantee exposure for Dallas, the NFL's most valuable brand, no matter how good or bad they are. It's not just about ratings, it's about visibility. Jerseys, highlights, media coverage. Thanksgiving is prime real estate, and Dallas lives there rent-free. Other teams occasionally get the night slot, but the early games are locked. No matter how well the Jaguars or Bengals play, they're watching from home. Some say it's just tradition. Others see it as institutional bias, wrapped in nostalgia. Either way, fans have noticed, and they're not buying the history excuse anymore. Next up, we'll dive into the wildest theory of them all. What if none of it's real? What if the NFL is scripted? The script theory. It started as a meme. Arian Foster, tongue fully in cheek, said in an interview that the NFL was scripted, like pro wrestling, but with more concussions. The internet exploded. Players joked about reading their script for the season. Fans rewrote iconic moments like they were lines in a movie. But behind all the laughs was something else. Doubt. Because when you start paying attention, some NFL moments feel a little too perfect. The Patriots' rise after September 11th. Peyton Manning winning the Super Bowl in his final game. Brady returning to Foxborough under primetime lights. Mahomes and Burrow being framed like Marvel heroes. You start to wonder, is it really just coincidence? The NFL is scripted theory doesn't mean outcomes are fixed. It's more like the suspicion that the league nudges things for the best storyline. The right camera angles. The perfectly timed schedule release. The heartwarming comeback and the sudden villain arc. Fans point to suspicious flags. Refs swallowing whistles in certain moments. Long drives aided by questionable third down calls. Even the Pro Bowl was turned into a flag football showcase because it looked better. The aesthetics, the show, often win out. Of course, it's probably not scripted. The game is way too violent, too chaotic. But the theory sticks because sometimes it would explain so much, especially when the next theory starts throwing videotapes and silence into the mix. Spygate and the legacy of the tapes. In 2007, the Patriots were caught filming defensive signals from the sideline. It became known as Spygate. They were fined, docked a draft pick, and the league said it was handled. But then Roger Goodell had all the tapes destroyed. Just like that. And that's where the theory truly begins. If it was just about one game or a rogue employee, why destroy the evidence? Why not let the public see and decide? Some theorists believe the tapes held more than just sideline footage, that they went back years, that maybe, just maybe, some Super Bowls weren't as clean as they looked. Other coaches claimed the Patriots had been doing it long before 2007. Rams players from the 2001 Super Bowl loss still claim something felt off. The theory says this wasn't about protecting a team, it was about protecting the league's image. The dynasty couldn't fall. The product couldn't be questioned. So the tapes had to vanish. Whether you believe it or not, it left a scar. Fans don't forget. And when new controversies arise, they go right back to those missing tapes. From missing footage to flipped coins, let's head into the strangest statistical theory in football. Coin toss algorithms and the 2018 glitch. It was the 2018 AFC Championship. Chiefs versus Patriots. Overtime. Patrick Mahomes never touches the ball. The Patriots win the toss, march down, and end the game. Just like that. Millions of fans cried foul, not at the teams, but the coin. The coin toss overtime theory suggests that, especially before recent rule changes, too many games, and sometimes championships, were decided not by football, but by a coin flip. Fans dove deep. Reddit threads popped up tracking coin toss winners by referee crew. Is this really random? People asked. But it went deeper. Some theorists wondered if coin toss results leaned suspiciously towards certain teams in big games. The algorithm is protecting narratives, one post claimed. After all, the NFL partners with networks, sponsors, and betting sites. Maybe it wasn't about who won, just about keeping things close and dramatic. The outrage eventually led to rule changes. Now both teams get a possession in playoff overtime. But the damage was done. The idea that chance, not talent, decided games was too much for some fans to accept. And it wasn't just the coin. More and more people started asking questions about the info teams don't share, like injuries. The injury report manipulation theory. It's Thursday. The QB is limited in practice. On Sunday, he throws for 350 yards like nothing happened. What gives? The theory here is simple. Teams lie. They lie about injuries all the time, and not just for gamesmanship, but to mess with betting lines, fantasy football players, and even the league itself. Bill Belichick is the poster child for this. He once listed Tom Brady as questionable for like 6 years straight. Vegas watches injury reports like gospel. A doubtful wide receiver shifts the line. A late scratch crashes the over-under. Some believe that teams strategically release injury info to manipulate expectations. Others think it's a way to protect players from being targeted or hide how bad things really are. Fantasy football has only made it worse. Now fans demand transparency, but teams owe them nothing. And that void of trust, that's where conspiracy lives. It's not about just one sprained ankle. It's about the idea that the league's information ecosystem is built on half-truths. And when teams want to lose, that brings us to the ugliest theory of all. Tanking is just strategic roster management. They never say it out loud. They'll use words like rebuilding or future-focused. But fans know tanking when they see it. That moment when a team trades its best players mid-season, benches its healthy veterans, and quietly loses 10 of its last 11 games, all to chase a top draft pick. The theory goes that front offices deliberately sabotage seasons to position themselves for elite talent, and sometimes it's not subtle. The Dolphins in 2019, the Colts for luck in 2011, the 2023 Cardinals before the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Fans noticed, so did players. Brian Flores even alleged he was offered money to lose, and sued the league for it. The NFL says it doesn't happen, but the incentives are right there. Draft order rewards losing. There's no lottery, no real penalty. And coaches often pay the price for tank jobs they didn't orchestrate. Fans hate it. Players hate it. But GMS, they call it a strategy. And until that changes, the theory stands tall. Sometimes, losing on purpose isn't just accepted, it's rewarded. Refs are told to let stars play. There's nothing the NFL protects more than its stars. The quarterbacks with commercials, the wide receivers with 10 million followers, the pass rushers on cereal boxes. These are more than just players. They're content. They're revenue. They're walking brands. And when the lights get brighter in the playoffs, one theory always resurfaces. That officials are told, not directly, but consistently, to give the stars some room to breathe. You've seen it. A quarterback gets hit late in week 5, and the flag comes out in 0.3 seconds. But come January, same hit, no call. A defensive back grabs a no-name tight end's jersey and gets flagged. But when it's Diggs versus Slay, suddenly they're just letting them play. It's not about blatant cheating. It's about subtle influence. The theory says that the NFL doesn't rig games. It rigs conditions. That means star players get longer leashes. That means top-tier wide receivers can push off just a little. That means pass rushers can take one extra step before they're flagged, as long as it's against someone important. And it's not just a fan theory anymore. Coaches like John Harbaugh and Sean Payton have openly questioned postseason officiating patterns, only to get slapped with fines or vague league statements about respecting the process. Former players have backed it up too. Once you make the Pro Bowl, you can get away with anything. One ex-corner said on a podcast, refs won't touch you unless it's obvious. The data supports it. Defensive pass interference flags drop sharply in playoff games. Roughing the passer is called less than half as often. Replays seem to benefit high-profile QBs just a little more often. Is it because the game is faster? Or because the league wants a few more highlight reels? Because the NFL isn't just a sport, it's a TV show. And that show needs ratings. And ratings need superstars. Nobody wants to see a wild card shootout decided by a third-string cornerback tugging on Justin Jefferson's arm. That's not good for football. So even if refs aren't given direct orders, the culture sends a clear message. Don't be the one who ruins the moment. Don't be the one who derails a classic drive. Swallow the whistle and let the names on the back of the jerseys sell the drama. It doesn't always happen, but it happens enough for fans to notice. And once you do, it's hard to unsee it. Because the truth is, when you're protecting the league's biggest assets, sometimes the rules start to look a little more flexible. And speaking of flexibility, the next theory dives into a division that seems to always get prime scheduling, no matter how bad the records. Welcome to the world of perpetual spotlight, the NFC East. The NFC East, primetime bias. It's Sunday night. The 4-8 Giants are playing the 6-6 Cowboys. Why? Ratings. That's what fans of teams outside the NFC East have been shouting for years. Because no matter how bad things get, the NFC East always gets the lights. The theory is simple. The NFL is addicted to the viewership from the East Coast powerhouses, Dallas, Philly, New York, and Washington. These 4 teams dominate population centers, fantasy leagues, and jersey sales. Even when they're bad, they're watched. The numbers back it up. The Cowboys alone have led the league in national appearances almost every year since 2000. Giants games get primetime, even when they average 12 points a game. Meanwhile, the Bengals went from a Super Bowl team to the early window again as soon as Burrow got hurt. Fans in places like Jacksonville and Nashville point out how rare it is for them to get even one Sunday night football game. Meanwhile, the Commanders show up like clockwork, even during the Dan Snyder circus years. The league calls it tradition. Fans call it favoritism. Either way, it feels like the same handful of franchises keep cashing in, which sets up the next theory perfectly. Because when certain players fall in the draft, it often feels less random and more intentional. The draft day leak machine, Laramie Tunsil, was going to be a top 5 pick. He had the talent, the tape, and the buzz. But then Just minutes before the 2016 NFL Draft began, a video drops. Tunsil, wearing a gas mask connected to a bong. Twitter melts down. TV crews scramble. Teams panic. And just like that, Tunsil tumbles to pick 13. His money drops. His league crews scramble. Teams panic. And just like that, Tunsil tumbles to pick 13. His money drops. His legacy shifts. And somewhere in a quiet war room, a general manager smirks because their dream pick just became affordable. Welcome to the draft leak machine, the theory that every April, someone somewhere decides to torch a player's draft stock intentionally to manipulate the board. This isn't a one-time thing. It happens every year. Just before the first round begins, out come the whispers. Unnamed scouts say player X has maturity issues, concerns about leadership, unimpressive interviews, no evidence, no clarity, but just enough doubt to cause GMs to hesitate. And in a business where hesitation is deadly, that's all it takes. And when you trace who benefits from the slide, it's rarely random. A quarterback falls, he lands in the perfect system. A star pass rusher suddenly drops due to concerns. He ends up with a playoff team at pick 27. Somehow, these leaks always seem to help the franchises that draft lower. It's not always proof of sabotage, but it's never far from it. Agents have hinted at it. Some have outright accused teams of planting stores to drive a prospect's stock down. It's not illegal, one agent said, but it should be. And for the players, there's no time to fight back. No microphone, no counter story, just a green room camera capturing them waiting, confused, embarrassed, anxious, as teams pass them by. Their careers altered, not by what they did on the field, but by what someone said off it. Sometimes it's a text. Sometimes it's an old arrest report suddenly resurfacing. Sometimes it's completely unverifiable character attacks that don't add up. And once a player drops, the damage is done and never gets undone. Years later, fans remember the incident, even if it never led to anything real. This theory isn't about paranoia. It's about control. Because in a draft where billions are on the line, every edge matters. And if a quiet, smear campaign can save a team $20 million and get them their guy, some teams will take the hit, as long as it's off camera. And maybe that's the worst part. It's not a glitch. It's a feature. Because the NFL isn't just a league. It's a business. And on draft night, business gets personal. And speaking of personal, when the most protected player in league history started getting hit too hard, the league did more than just leak stories. It rewrote the rulebook, which brings us to one man, Brady, and the era of protection that followed. The Brady rulebook effect. Tom Brady didn't invent quarterback safety, but if you watch the NFL evolve between 2001 and 2021, it sure looked like the league built an entire rulebook around him. The theory says this: as Brady became the face of the NFL, the rules subtly shifted to protect him, and by extension, every quarterback. Hits that were legal in 2002 became 15-yard penalties by 2010. By the late 2000s, defensive players couldn't land their weight, couldn't hit low, couldn't hit high, couldn't hit late. Basically, don't hit the quarterback at all. It wasn't just about health. It was about brand protection. Brady was the NFL's golden boy. Clean image, historic resume, national appeal. A serious injury could have changed that. So the league adjusted the environment. The most infamous example? The 2008 ACL tear. After that, the NFL banned low hits on quarterbacks. Defensive ends had to retrain their entire approach. Fans, especially defenders, noticed. Can't touch the quarterback anymore, became the rallying cry. And while all QBs benefited, the timing always seemed to favor number 12, which leads to the final theory, the one that questions whether the postseason is really about merit or marketing. When the playoffs don't feel earned. In 2010, the Seahawks made the playoffs with a 7-9 record and hosted a playoff game. In 2018, the 13-3 Saints lost home field due to tiebreakers. And in multiple postseasons since, fans have watched one thing happen over and over. The better team goes home, while the better story advances. The theory here is that the NFL's playoff structure isn't built for fairness. It's built for narrative drama. That means division winners get priority, even if they're worse than wildcard teams. That means calls go quiet when a blowout starts to form. That means a Cinderella run gets more push than a juggernaut domination. Fans point to ticky-tack calls, curious no calls, or sudden ref crew assignments in key matchups. Sometimes it's about keeping things close. Sometimes it's about making sure a marketable team survives one more week. Nobody's saying the game is rigged, but when the best teams consistently get the worst luck and the biggest names get the longest runways, fans start asking the hard question: is this about football or ratings? Because in the NFL, what's good for business sometimes looks a lot like bad luck for everyone else. Some theories are crazy, others are just football. But once you start noticing the patterns, the calls, the coverage, the timing, it's hard to unsee. Whether it's strategy, business, or something more subtle, the NFL always leaves just enough doubt to keep us guessing. And that's what makes it addicting.